The wagon rolled into Ouray, Colorado territory on a sweltering August afternoon in 1878, and Owen Turner knew something was wrong the moment he saw the irons around the woman's wrists. He had been leaning against the fence post outside McAllister's general store, watching dust devils dance down the main street when the prison transport rattled past. Most folks barely glanced up from their business, but Owen's jaw tightened when he caught sight of delicate hands bound in heavy chains protruding from the wagon's barred window. The marshal riding shotgun looked half asleep, his rifle resting carelessly across his lap, and the driver seemed more interested in reaching the saloon than delivering his cargo. Owen pushed off the fence and followed on foot, his long strides eating up the distance as the wagon creaked to a halt outside the sheriff's office. He kept his distance, pretending to examine a saddle in the shop window across the street while his keen gray eyes tracked every movement. The marshal climbed down first, stretching his back with a groan. "Got a delivery for Sheriff Hammond," he called through the office door. Sheriff Hammond emerged, squinting in the harsh sunlight. He was a decent man, Owen knew, but overworked and underpaid like most lawmen in these mining towns. "What have you got for me?" "Mail order bride for some rancher named Cornelius Webb. Woman's wanted for theft back in St. Louis. Webb paid her bail and transport costs, so she's his problem now." Owen's hands clenched into fists. Cornelius Webb was a wealthy cattle rancher 20 miles north of Ouray, a man known for his cruelty to both animals and the men who worked for him. Owen had crossed paths with Webb twice before, and neither encounter had ended pleasantly. The wagon door screeched open, and the woman was pulled out roughly by her chains. Owen felt his breath catch in his chest. She was young, probably no more than 22 or 23, with auburn hair that caught the sunlight like polished copper. Despite the dirt on her face and the ill-fitting dress that hung on her thin frame, she held her head high, green eyes blazing with defiance rather than defeat. "Move along," the marshal barked, yanking the chains hard enough to make her stumble. Owen saw red. Before his brain could catch up with his body, he was crossing the street, his boots kicking up small clouds of dust. "That is no way to treat a lady, Marshal." The marshal turned, hand moving instinctively toward his gun. "This does not concern you, Cowboy." "Owen Turner." Sheriff Hammond's voice held a note of warning. "Stay out of this." But Owen was already studying the papers the marshal held. His years working as a ranch foreman had taught him to read quickly and well. The charges were for stealing bread and medicine from a store owner in St. Louis. The bail had been set at $200, an astronomical sum that no working woman could hope to raise. Cornelius Webb had paid it, along with the transport costs, in exchange for 5 years of indentured servitude disguised as marriage. "Those chains are not necessary," Owen said, his voice low and dangerous. "She is not a violent criminal." The woman's eyes met his for the first time, and Owen felt something shift in his chest. There was intelligence in that gaze and pain, and a fierce determination that reminded him of wild horses he had gentled over the years. Not broken, never broken, just waiting for the right touch. "The chains stay on until she is delivered to Webb," the marshal said. "Those are my orders." "Your orders are to deliver her safely, not to treat her like livestock." Owen turned to Sheriff Hammond. "You know what kind of man Webb is. You send this woman to him in chains, and you are condemning her to a life worse than prison." Hammond shifted uncomfortably. "The law is the law, Owen. The law says she is to be released into Webb's custody. It does not say anything about chains." Owen pulled a folded paper from his vest pocket. "I have here a letter from Webb dated 3 weeks ago, asking me to help him select breeding stock for his herd. That makes me his representative in this matter. It was a lie, but a convincing one. Owen had received such a letter, though he had promptly used it to start his fire that morning. Webb's request had been insulting, offering half the going rate for Owen's expertise. The marshal hesitated, clearly eager to be done with the whole business. "You will take responsibility for her delivery." "I will." Owen met the woman's eyes again. "And I will remove those chains right now. A man's intended bride should not arrive at his home looking like a convict." The woman's expression did not change, but Owen saw the slight tremor that ran through her shoulders. She did not want to go to Webb any more than Owen wanted to send her there. But first things first. He needed to get those damn chains off her. The marshal shrugged and tossed Owen the key. "Fine by me. Let's wait to haul back to Denver." Owen approached the woman slowly, the way he would a skittish mare. "My name is Owen Turner, miss. I am going to remove these chains now. You have my word that I will not hurt you." She watched him warily, but did not pull away as he knelt and began working on the ankle irons first. The metal had rubbed her skin raw, leaving angry red marks that made his blood boil. When the leg irons fell away, he moved to her wrists, his fingers gentle as he manipulated the key in the lock. "What is your name?" he asked softly. For a long moment he thought she would not answer. Then, in a voice rough from disuse, she said, "Olivia Frost." "It is a pleasure to meet you, Miss Frost, though I wish it were under better circumstances." The wrist chains clicked open and Owen caught them before they could fall, setting them aside with deliberate care. "There. You are free of those, at least." Olivia rubbed her wrists, her eyes never leaving his face. "You said you would deliver me to Cornelius Webb." "I said I would take responsibility for your delivery. That is not quite the same thing." Owen stood, positioning himself between her and the marshal. "Sheriff, I will need to borrow a horse for Miss Frost. I will return it within the week." "Now hold on," the marshal protested. "I need to see her delivered proper." Owen fixed him with a hard stare. "You have been paid for transport, and you have delivered your cargo to our Ray as specified in your contract. Your business here is done. Unless you want to explain to the territorial judge why you felt the need to keep a non-violent offender in chains when local law enforcement deemed it unnecessary." The marshal's face reddened, but he backed down. He knew as well as Owen did that the territorial courts were cracking down on martial brutality. "Fine, but if Webb complains, it is on your head. I will take that risk." Owen waited until the marshal and his driver had climbed back onto the wagon and headed toward the saloon before turning to Sheriff Hammond. "I need that horse, John." Hammond sighed. "You are playing a dangerous game, Owen. Webb has friends in Denver." "Webb is a coward who beats his workers and runs his ranch into the ground through sheer stupidity. I am not afraid of him." Owen softened his tone. "Please, John, just the horse." The sheriff studied Olivia for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "There is a bay mare in the stable out back. Bring her back by Saturday or I will have to report her stolen. You have my word." Owen turned to Olivia, who had been watching the exchange with wide eyes. "Can you ride, Miss Frost? I can manage." Her voice was stronger now, less uncertain. "Good. We have a long ride ahead of us, and I would like to put some distance between us and this town before Webb gets word that you have arrived." She tilted her head, confusion crossing her features. "I do not understand. You told them you would deliver me to Webb." "I lied." Owen allowed himself a small smile. "I am very good at it when the situation calls for it. Now come, we need to move quickly." He led her around the back of the sheriff's office to the small stable where Hammond kept his personal horses. The bay mare was a good-tempered animal with kind eyes, and Owen made quick work of saddling her while Olivia watched from the doorway. "Where are we going?" she asked. "My ranch. It is about 15 miles south of here, tucked up in the mountains where the valley narrows. He checked the girth strap, then turned to face her. You will be safe there while we figure out what to do about your situation. Why are you helping me? The question was direct, challenging. You do not know me. I could be exactly what those papers say. A thief. Owen met her gaze steadily. Did you steal that bread and medicine? For a moment, vulnerability flickered across her face. Yes, my sister was sick. The doctor would not come without payment, and the medicine cost more than I could earn in a month, so I took what I needed. Then you are not a thief. You are a sister who loved her family enough to risk everything for them. He paused, his voice gentler. Did she survive? Olivia's eyes glistened. No. She died 3 days later. The medicine was too little, too late. I am sorry, and he was. Owen knew what it was like to lose family, to feel that crushing helplessness when the people you loved slipped away. How did you end up in this situation with Webb? She wrapped her arms around herself, looking suddenly smaller. The store owner had me arrested. I could not make bail. I sat in that cell for 2 months, and then one day the marshal came and said my bail had been paid by a rancher in Colorado Territory. Said he was looking for a wife, and I would be working off my debt through marriage. I thought anything would be better than that cell. Her laugh was bitter. I was wrong, was I not? You will never have to find out. Owen held out his hand. Come. We should go before anyone asks too many questions. She hesitated only a moment before placing her hand in his. Her fingers were cold despite the heat, and so small in his calloused palm. Owen helped her onto the mare, then swung up onto his own horse, a sturdy buckskin gelding he had tied outside the general store earlier. They rode out of Ouray heading south, taking the less traveled mountain trails that Owen knew like the back of his hand. The afternoon sun beat down on them, but the higher they climbed, the more the temperature dropped. Pine trees rose around them, and the sound of rushing water from mountain streams provided a constant backdrop to the steady rhythm of hoofbeats. Olivia rode well, Owen noticed. She kept her seat even when the trail grew rocky, and she did not complain about the pace he set. But he could see the exhaustion in the set of her shoulders, the way she swayed slightly when they paused to water the horses. We can rest if you need to, he offered. She shook her head. I would rather put as much distance as possible between myself and that town. What happens when Webb realizes I am not coming? He will likely come looking. But my ranch is well defensible, and I have good men working for me. Webb would be a fool to try anything violent. Owen studied her profile, the stubborn set of her jaw. That is assuming he even connects you to me. For all he knows, you could have run off on your own. Can I ask you something? She turned to face him, green eyes searching. Why did you really help me? Most men would have looked the other way. Owen considered his answer carefully. My mother was a mail-order bride. She came west to marry my father sight unseen, and she was lucky because he was a good man who treated her with respect and kindness. But I have seen too many women in this territory who were not so lucky. Women who ended up as unpaid servants or worse to men who saw them as property. He paused. When I saw you in those chains, I saw my mother, and I could not walk away. Something in Olivia's expression softened. Where is your mother now? She died when I was 17. Fever took her one winter. My father followed a year later, said he could not live without her. Owen cleared his throat, uncomfortable with the emotion in his voice. They were the rare kind of love story that actually worked out in this hard land. I am sorry for your loss. Olivia's voice was gentle. It sounds like they were fortunate to find each other. They were. Owen nudged his horse forward. Come on, we should keep moving. There is a spot about an hour from here where we can stop and rest properly. They rode in companionable silence for a while. The only sounds the creak of saddle leather and the soft whisper of wind through pine branches. Owen found himself acutely aware of Olivia's presence, the way she moved with her horse, the occasional glimpse of her profile when she turned to look at something in the landscape. She was beautiful. There was no denying that, but it was more than her looks that had compelled him to act. There was a strength in her, a refusal to be broken by circumstances that would have crushed a weaker person. Owen admired that, respected it. The sun was starting to dip toward the western peaks when they reached the clearing Owen had in mind. A small stream bubbled through the center and the grass was thick and green. He helped Olivia down from her horse, noticing the way she winced when her feet touched the ground. "Your ankles are hurting," he observed. "It is nothing, just sore from the chains. Let me take a look." Owen knelt before she could protest, gently lifting the hem of her dress just enough to see the raw, abraded skin around her ankles. Anger surged through him again at the casual cruelty of those chains. "We need to clean these and bandage them properly." "You do not have to do that," Olivia protested, but there was no real conviction in her voice. "Infection is nothing to take lightly out here. The nearest doctor is back in our ray, and I would rather not risk a return trip just yet." Owen pulled a clean cloth from his saddlebag, along with a small tin of salve he kept for treating rope burns and scrapes on the ranch. "This will sting a bit, but it will help with the healing." He knelt by the stream and wet the cloth, then returned to where Olivia had settled on a smooth rock. As gently as he could, Owen cleaned the wounds, acutely aware of how close he was to her, the slight hitch in her breathing when the water touched the raw skin. "You are very kind," she said softly. "I am practical. An infection would slow us down." But Owen's voice lacked conviction. The truth was, he wanted to help her, wanted to erase every hurt she had suffered, every indignity. He applied the salve and wrapped her ankles in clean bandages, his fingers careful and sure. When he finished, he sat back and looked up at her. "Better. Much, thank you." Olivia bit her lip. "Owen, what happens when we reach your ranch? I cannot simply hide there forever. Webb paid a lot of money for me. He will want what he thinks he bought. We will figure something out. Maybe get you on a stage to California or up to Wyoming where you can start fresh with a new name." Even as he said it, Owen felt a strange reluctance at the thought of Olivia leaving, which was absurd. He had known her for all of a few hours. "I have no money for passage anywhere," Olivia said quietly. "And I would not even know where to go. I have no family left. My parents died years ago, and my sister was all I had." The loneliness in her voice tugged at something deep in Owen's chest. "You are not alone anymore. I give you my word, Olivia. I will not let anything happen to you." She looked at him for a long moment, and Owen saw the exact instant she decided to trust him. It was there in the softening of her eyes, the slight relaxation of her shoulders. "Why do I believe you? Because I am a terrible liar, except when I am doing it to marshals and sheriffs." Owen stood and offered his hand again. "Come on. We should eat something before we ride the last stretch. My ranch hand, Marcus, will have supper waiting, and he makes the best biscuits in 3 counties. They shared the dried meat and hardtack Owen had in his saddlebags, washing it down with cold stream water. As they ate, Owen found himself telling Olivia about his ranch, how he had built it from nothing over the past 5 years. It was not the biggest spread in the area, but it was his, and he ran it with care and integrity. "How many men work for you?" Olivia asked. "Just Marcus right now. He is getting on in years, but he knows cattle better than anyone I've ever met. We also have a woman named Beth who comes in 3 times a week to help with the house and the cooking. She is married to the blacksmith in our ray." Owen gathered up their simple meals remains. "It is not a fancy operation, but it is honest work and it pays well enough." "It sounds wonderful." There was genuine warmth in Olivia's voice. I have never lived anywhere that felt like home. We were always moving, following work. Even in St. Louis, we just rented a room above a dress shop. Well, you are welcome to stay as long as you need. Owen helped her back onto her horse. Fair warning, though. The house is nothing special. 2 bedrooms, a main room, and a kitchen. But it is solid and warm, and the roof does not leak. The last leg of their journey took them deeper into the mountains, following a narrow trail that would have been treacherous in the dark. But Owen knew every turn, every rock and tree, and he guided them safely through the gathering dusk. As they crested the final ridge, Owen's ranch came into view. The house sat in a small valley, a sturdy log structure with a stone chimney from which smoke was already rising. The barn and corrals spread out behind it, and Owen could see the dark shapes of cattle grazing in the far pasture. "It is beautiful," Olivia breathed. Owen felt an unexpected surge of pride. "It is home." They rode down the slope as the first stars began to appear in the darkening sky. Marcus emerged from the barn, a lantern in hand, his weathered face creasing into a smile when he recognized Owen. But the smile faded to confusion when he saw Olivia. "Owen, what is going on? Who is this?" "Marcus, this is Miss Olivia Frost. She will be staying with us for a while." Owen dismounted and helped Olivia down, noting how she swayed on her feet. "It is a long story and one best told over supper. Can you see to the horses while I get her settled?" Marcus looked between them, clearly bursting with questions, but he nodded. "Sure thing, boss." Beth left a pot of stew on the stove and fresh bread in the box. "You are a treasure, Marcus." Owen placed a hand on Olivia's elbow, steadying her. "Come on, you need to eat and rest." He led her into the house, lighting lamps as they went. The main room was exactly as he had described it, simple but comfortable, with a large stone fireplace and furniture Owen had built himself during the long winter months. The kitchen area occupied one corner, and the smell of Beth's cooking made Owen's stomach growl. "You can have my room," Owen said, gesturing to one of the 2 doors off the main room. "I will bunk with Marcus in the loft above the barn." "I cannot take your room," Olivia protested. "I have already disrupted your life enough. You will take it, and that is final." Owen's tone left no room for argument. "You need a proper bed and a door that locks. I will not have you feeling unsafe here." He showed her the room, a small space with a bed, a dresser, and a washstand. It was not much, but the sheets were clean and the mattress was good. Owen had made it himself, stuffing it with fresh straw and sweet grass just last month. "There is water in the pitcher, and I will bring you some of Beth's stew. After you eat, you should sleep. We can talk more in the morning." Owen paused at the door. "There is a bolt on the inside. Use it if it makes you feel safer." "Owen." Olivia's voice stopped him. "Thank you for everything. I know I have said it before, but I cannot seem to say it enough." He turned back to find her watching him with those remarkable green eyes. "You do not need to thank me, Olivia. What kind of man would I be if I had walked away? Most men would have. That is what makes you different." She moved closer, and Owen caught the faint scent of lavender despite the dust of travel. "I will find a way to repay you for your kindness. There is no debt between us." Owen forced himself to step back, to put proper distance between them. "Get some rest. Things will look clearer in the morning." He retreated to the kitchen and ladled out 2 bowls of stew, adding thick slices of Beth's bread. When he returned to Olivia's room, he found her sitting on the edge of the bed, looking lost and small in the lamplight. "Eat," he said gently, handing her a bowl. "You will feel better with food in your stomach." They ate in silence, but it was a comfortable quiet, the kind that comes when words are not necessary. Owen found himself watching the play of emotions across Olivia's face, the way her eyes closed in pleasure at the first taste of the hot stew, the slight smile when she bit into the fresh bread. When they finished, Owen collected the bowls. "I will leave you to your rest. If you need anything at all, Marcus and I will be in the barn. Just ring the bell on the porch." "Good night, Owen, and thank you again." "Good night, Olivia." He left before he could do something foolish, like stay longer than propriety allowed. Outside, the night air was cool and sharp with the scent of pine. Owen stood on the porch for a long moment, trying to sort through the tangle of emotions in his chest. Marcus was waiting in the barn, sitting on a hay bale with his pipe lit. "You going to tell me what is really going on, Owen? That girl looks like she has been through hell." Owen sank down beside his old friend and told him everything, from seeing Olivia in chains to the lies he had told to get her away from the marshal. Marcus listened without interrupting, his lined face growing grimmer with each detail. "You have opened a real can of worms," Marcus said when Owen finished. "Webb is not going to let this go. He paid good money, and men like him do not like being made fools of. I know. But what choice did I have? Leave her to that bastard? No, you did the right thing. But we need to be smart about what comes next." Marcus puffed on his pipe. "Webb will come here eventually, and when he does, we need to be ready. I will not let him take her." Owen's voice was hard. "She is under my protection now." Marcus gave him a sharp look. "That is a strong claim, Owen." "You sure you have thought through what you are saying?" Had he? Owen barely knew Olivia, but already he felt a fierce protectiveness toward her that went beyond simple decency. There was something about her strength, her refusal to be broken, that called to something deep inside him. "I know what I am saying," he said finally. "She stays here under my protection for as long as she needs. And if Webb pushes it, if he brings the law, then we show them the truth. That Olivia was brought here in chains, treated like property, and that I offered her sanctuary as any decent person would." Owen met Marcus's eyes. "I will not back down on this." "I did not figure you would." Marcus stood, stretching his back. "Well then, we best prepare for trouble. I will ride into town tomorrow, see what word is spreading about Webb's missing bride. Be careful. Webb has ears everywhere. I have been dealing with men like Cornelius Webb since before you were born, boy. I know how to keep my mouth shut and my ears open." Marcus headed for the ladder to the loft. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow is liable to bring its own problems." But sleep did not come easily to Owen. He lay in the hay loft, staring up at the dark beams overhead, thinking about Olivia in his house. Was she sleeping? Did she feel safe? The image of those chains around her wrists kept playing through his mind, fueling his anger and his determination to keep her from ever being bound again. He must have dozed eventually, because the next thing he knew, gray light was filtering through the cracks in the barn walls and Marcus was already up, moving around below. Owen climbed down and splashed cold water on his face from the trough, trying to shake off the lingering dreams that had featured a certain auburn-haired woman far too prominently. The house was quiet when he approached, and Owen wondered if Olivia was still sleeping. But when he opened the door, he found her in the kitchen, wrapped in a shawl he recognized as one of Beth's, standing over the stove. "Good morning," she said, glancing up with a tentative smile. "I hope you do not mind. I found eggs and bacon and thought I would make breakfast." "You should be resting." But Owen could not help returning her smile. The morning light streaming through the window caught the red in her hair, and she looked healthier than she had yesterday, some color back in her cheeks. "I have rested enough, and I need to do something useful. I am not good at sitting idle." She turned back to the pan, flipping bacon with practiced ease. "Besides, you have done so much for me. The least I can do is make you a meal." Owen washed his hands and started setting the table, a simple plank affair he had built years ago. "How did you sleep?" "Better than I have in months. That bed is like heaven compared to a jail cell cot." Olivia cracked eggs into the pan with swift efficiency. I used the bolt on the door like you suggested. It helped me feel safe. Good. Owen pulled out a chair. Marcus is riding into our array this morning to see what news is circulating. We need to know what Webb is planning. Olivia's hand stilled over the pan. Do you think he will come here? Eventually, yes, but we will be ready for him. Owen kept his voice calm, reassuring. This ranch is defensible and you are not alone in this. Whatever happens, we face it together. She brought the food to the table, serving Owen first before filling her own plate. They ate in silence for a few minutes, but Owen could see the worry in her eyes, the tension in her shoulders. Talk to me, he said gently. What are you thinking? Olivia set down her fork. I am thinking that I have brought trouble to your door, that I should leave before Webb comes and causes you harm. Absolutely not. Where would you go? You have no money, no resources. Owen reached across the table and covered her hand with his. You are safe here, Olivia, and I meant what I said yesterday. You are mine to protect. The words hung in the air between them, heavier with meaning than Owen had intended. Olivia's eyes widened, her lips parting slightly, and Owen felt heat crawl up his neck. He had not meant it like that, had he? But looking at her now, feeling the warmth of her skin under his palm, he could not deny the truth that had been growing since he first saw her. He was falling for her. This woman he barely knew who had crashed into his life in chains and chaos. It was reckless and foolish and completely unlike his usual careful nature, but there it was. Owen, Olivia whispered, you cannot say things like that. You barely know me. I know enough. He tightened his grip on her hand. I know you are brave and resourceful. I know you loved your sister enough to risk everything for her. I know you did not let months in jail break your spirit. That is enough for me. But what about Webb? What about the law? I am still legally bound to him through that contract. Contracts signed under duress are not binding. Any judge worth his salt would void it in a heartbeat. Owen pulled his hand back, giving her space. But we will deal with all that when the time comes. For now, you are here and you are safe. That is what matters. The sound of a horse approaching made them both tense. Owen moved to the window, relaxing slightly when he saw it was just Beth arriving for her usual day of work. The older woman's eyes went wide when she spotted Olivia through the window, and Owen knew he had some explaining to do. He met Beth on the porch before she could enter. Beth, we have a guest. Her name is Olivia Frost, and she will be staying with us for a while. I need you to keep that information to yourself. Can you do that? Beth looked past him to where Olivia stood in the doorway. Does this have anything to do with Cornelius Webb stomping around town yesterday, hollering about a missing bride? Owen's jaw tightened. What did he say? Said his mail-order bride never arrived, that someone in our array must be hiding her. He had words with Sheriff Hammond, but John held firm. Said he had no knowledge of any missing woman. Beth's shrewd eyes studied Owen's face. That girl in there, she is the one Webb is looking for, is she not? She is not his. He bought her like property, Beth. I could not stand by and let that happen. Beth was quiet for a long moment, then nodded slowly. My late husband once told me that the measure of a man is what he does when no one is watching. You did right, Owen Turner. I will not breathe a word of this to anyone. Relief flooded through Owen. Thank you, Beth. That means more than you know. But you need to be careful. Webb has friends, and he is not the type to let something like this go. He will be back, and he will be looking for any excuse to cause trouble. I know. We are prepared for that. Beth patted his arm. Good. Now let me meet this girl properly and see if she is worth all this fuss you are making. Owen led Beth inside and made the introductions. The two women took to each other immediately, Beth's motherly nature putting Olivia at ease. Within minutes, They were chatting comfortably about recipes and household matters while Owen stood awkwardly to the side, feeling suddenly unnecessary in his own home. "Go on with you," Beth said, shooing him toward the door. "We have work to do here, and you are just in the way. Go check on your cattle or mend a fence or whatever it is you do all day." Owen caught Olivia's eye and saw amusement dancing there. It transformed her face, made her look young and carefree, and Owen felt his heart do an uncomfortable flip in his chest. "I will be in the north pasture if you need me," he said, grabbing his hat from the peg by the door. He spent the morning riding fence lines and checking on the cattle, but his mind was not on his work. Every thought circled back to Olivia, to the feel of her hand under his, the way she had looked at him across the breakfast table. He was in dangerous territory, letting himself care for her this much this quickly. But Owen had never been one to do things by halves. When he committed to something, he committed fully. And somewhere between seeing her in those chains and watching her smile over breakfast, he had committed himself to Olivia Frost. The question was, did she feel the same? Or was she simply grateful to him for rescuing her, mistaking gratitude for something deeper? Marcus returned from town just after noon, his expression grim. Owen met him at the barn, already knowing the news would not be good. "Webb is raising hell," Marcus reported, swinging down from his horse. "He has been to the sheriff, the mayor, even tried to wire the territorial governor. Claims you kidnapped his bride and he wants the law to bring her back." "What did Sheriff Hammond say?" "John is holding the line, saying he has no evidence of any kidnapping, but Webb is not letting it go. He is offering a reward for information about Olivia's whereabouts. $50 to anyone who can tell him where she is." $50 was more than most folks in our array made in 2 months. Someone would talk eventually, if only for the money. "How long do we have?" Owen asked. "A day, maybe 2. Word travels fast in a small town, and there are plenty of people who owe Webb favors." Marcus started unsaddling his horse. "You need to make a decision, Owen. Are you prepared to fight for her? Because that is what it is going to come to." "I already decided. She stays. Even if it means going up against Webb and everyone he can buy or bully into supporting him, even then." Owen helped Marcus lift the saddle off. "I will not let him take her, Marcus. I cannot." The old ranch hand studied him for a long moment. "You are falling for her, are you not?" Owen did not answer, but his silence was answer enough. "Well, hell," Marcus said, but there was no real judgment in his voice. "I suppose there are worse reasons to pick a fight with a man like Webb. Just be sure she feels the same way before you go getting yourself killed over her." "I will talk to her." But the opportunity did not present itself that day. Beth stayed through the afternoon, teaching Olivia how to make bread the way Owen liked it, and by the time the older woman left, Olivia was exhausted from being on her feet all day. Owen watched her try to hide her yawns over supper and insisted she go to bed early. "We can talk tomorrow," he said, clearing the dishes. "You need rest." "I have done nothing but rest," Olivia protested, but she did not resist when Owen gently steered her toward her room. "You are healing. Both your body and your spirit. Give yourself time." He paused at her door. "Sleep well, Olivia." She caught his hand before he could turn away. "Owen, I heard what Marcus said when he came back about Webb offering a reward. You do not need to worry about that, but I do worry. I worry that someone will tell him I am here. I worry that he will come with men and guns. I worry that you will be hurt because of me." Her eyes glistened in the lamplight. "Maybe I should just go to him. End this before anyone gets hurt." Owen cupped her face in his hands, tilting her chin up so she had to meet his eyes. "Listen to me very carefully, Olivia Frost. You are not going anywhere near Cornelius Webb. Not now, not ever, do you understand? But no buts. You are under my protection, and I take that responsibility seriously. Whatever comes, we face it together. His thumb brushed across her cheekbone and he felt her tremble. I will not let him take you, not while I draw breath. Why? Her voice was barely a whisper. Why are you doing all this for me? Owen knew this was the moment. The moment when he could step back, keep things safe and distant, or he could leap into the unknown and tell her the truth. He leaped. Because from the moment I saw you, something in me recognized something in you. Because you are brave and fierce and beautiful, and I cannot imagine letting you walk out of my life. He took a breath. Because I am falling in love with you, Olivia, and I know that is crazy given we have known each other less than 2 days, but there it is. Her eyes went wide, her lips parting in shock. Owen, you do not have to say anything. I am not asking for anything in return. I just needed you to know the truth, that this is not just about doing the right thing anymore. It is about you, about us. He dropped his hands and stepped back, giving her room to breathe. Think about it. We will talk more tomorrow. He left before she could respond, his heart pounding so hard he thought it might break through his ribs. Well, he had done it now. Laid all his cards on the table like a fool. If she did not feel the same, things were going to get very awkward very quickly. Owen barely slept that night, lying in the hay loft staring at the stars through the gaps in the roof. What had he been thinking, declaring himself like that? She probably thought he was insane. Or worse, that he was no better than Webb, trying to claim her for himself. But when morning came and Owen dragged himself to the house for breakfast, Olivia was already up and waiting for him. She had made coffee and biscuits, and her hands shook slightly as she poured him a cup. We should talk, she said quietly. Owen's stomach dropped. Here it came. The gentle rejection, the reminder that she was grateful but nothing more. Olivia, you do not have to, please. Let me speak. She sat across from him, her hands wrapped around her own coffee cup. What you said last night about falling in love with me, did you mean it? Every word. Why, what do you see in me that makes you think you could love me? I am broken, Owen. I have nothing to offer you, no money, no family, no future. You are not broken. Bent maybe, tested certainly, but not broken. And as for what I see, Owen reached across the table and took her hand. I see a woman who would risk everything to save someone she loves, a woman who survived months in jail without losing her spirit. A woman who can make a simple kitchen feel like home just by being in it. He squeezed her fingers gently. You say you have nothing to offer, but you are wrong. You have yourself, and that is everything I want. Tears spilled down Olivia's cheeks. I do not deserve your kindness. That is not for you to decide. I choose to give it freely. Owen stood and moved around the table, kneeling beside her chair. Olivia, I am not asking you to love me back. Not yet. I know it is too soon, that you need time to heal and find yourself again. But I need you to know that you are not alone. That whatever happens with Webb or the law or anything else, I am here. I am on your side. Always. She turned to face him, her green eyes swimming with tears. Owen, I am so afraid of what I feel for you. Afraid that this is all too good to be true and I will wake up back in that cell. Afraid that Webb will take me away and I will never get to find out what we could be together. Hope flared in Owen's chest. What you feel for me? Olivia let out a shaky laugh. You really are terrible at listening, are you not? I just said I am afraid of what I feel for you. She cupped his face in her hands, her touch gentle. Owen Turner, I have known you for less than 3 days, but in that time, you have shown me more kindness and respect than I have known in my entire life. You looked at me in chains and saw a person worth saving. You brought me to your home and made me feel safe. You stand between me and a man who would hurt me, even though it puts you at risk. Olivia, I am not finished. But she was smiling now, despite the tears. You say you are falling in love with me, but Owen, I think I fell the moment you knelt at my feet and freed me from those chains. When you looked at me and said I was yours to protect. I fell so hard and so fast that it terrifies me, because I do not know how to do this. I do not know how to be loved or how to love someone back without being afraid they will leave or die or disappear. Owen pulled her hands from his face and pressed his lips to her palms, first one, then the other. Then we will learn together. We will take it slow, figure it out as we go. There are no rules that say love has to follow a certain timeline. Even when there is a man who thinks he owns me coming to take me away, especially then. Because that just means we have to fight for what we want instead of having it handed to us. Owen stood and pulled her up into his arms. I know you are scared, so am I. But I also know that what I feel for you is real, Olivia. And if you feel even a fraction of the same, then we owe it to ourselves to see where this goes. She rested her head against his chest, and Owen wrapped his arms around her, holding her close. I do feel the same, she whispered. It terrifies me, but I do. They stood like that for a long moment, wrapped in each other's arms in the quiet kitchen while morning sunlight streamed through the windows. Owen felt something settle in his chest, a rightness he had not known he was missing until this woman crashed into his life. The moment was shattered by the sound of hoofbeats approaching fast. Owen released Olivia and moved to the window, his hand instinctively going to the rifle mounted above the door. It was Marcus, riding hard, his face flushed with exertion. Owen, he called as he pulled his horse to a sliding stop. Webb is coming. He's got 6 men with him and they are armed, maybe an hour behind me at most. Owen's blood went cold. Go inside, he told Olivia. Lock yourself in the bedroom and do not come out until I say it is safe. No. Her voice was firm. I will not hide while you face danger because of me. Olivia, please. I need to know you are safe so I can focus on dealing with Webb. And I need to stand beside you. This is my fight too, Owen. There was no time to argue. Owen could hear the distant thunder of approaching horses now. He grabbed his rifle and checked that it was loaded, then handed Olivia his pistol. You know how to use this. My father taught me when I was young. Good. Stay behind me and only shoot if you absolutely have to. Owen moved onto the porch, Marcus joining him with his own rifle. Beth is safe in town, Marcus reported. I warned her not to come today. The riders appeared over the ridge, 6 men on horseback with Cornelius Webb in the lead. Webb was a large man, running to fat in middle age with a red face and small, mean eyes. He pulled his horse to a stop 20 feet from the porch, his men fanning out behind him. Turner, Webb called out, his voice dripping with false friendliness. I believe you have something that belongs to me. I do not know what you are talking about, Webb. Owen kept his rifle pointed at the ground, but his finger was near the trigger. Do not play games with me, boy. That woman behind you is my bride. I paid good money for her, and I want what is mine. She is not your bride. She is a human being, not property you can buy. Webb's face darkened. I have the contract right here, signed by her and witnessed by a judge in St. Louis. She owes me 5 years of service, and I mean to collect. That contract was signed under duress. She had no real choice. You know it, and I know it. The law does not care about her choices. It cares about legal contracts. Webb leaned forward in his saddle. Now you can hand her over peacefully or my men and I can come take her. Either way, she is leaving with me today. Owen raised his rifle. She is not going anywhere with you, Webb. Olivia stays here under my protection. Your protection? Webb laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. What are you going to do, Turner? Shoot me. That would be murder and they would hang you for it. Is she really worth dying for? Yes, Owen said simply. She is. Something in his tone must have convinced Webb he was serious, because the older man's expression shifted from amusement to cold calculation. "Fine. You want to make this difficult, we will make it difficult. Boys." The 6 men with Webb drew their weapons. Owen heard Olivia gasp behind him, felt her hand on his back. "Last chance, Turner. Hand her over or we take her by force. You will have to go through me first, so be it." Webb's men started to advance. Owen sighted down his rifle at the nearest one, his heart pounding. He did not want to kill anyone, but he would if it meant keeping Olivia safe. Beside him, Marcus had his rifle trained on another of Webb's men. "Stop right there." A new voice rang out across the valley. Everyone turned to see Sheriff Hammond riding toward them, a deputy at his side. The lawman looked furious as he pulled his horse between Webb's men and Owen's porch. "What in blazes is going on here?" Hammond demanded. "This does not concern you, Sheriff," Webb said. "I am just collecting property that belongs to me." "That woman is not property, Webb, and you know it." Hammond turned to Owen. "Is she here of her own free will?" "She is," Owen confirmed. "And do you want to go with Webb?" Hammond called to Olivia. Olivia stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. "No, Sheriff, I do not. This man paid my bail and transport under false pretenses, claiming he wanted a wife when what he really wanted was a slave. I would rather die than go with him." "You heard her, Webb. She does not want to go with you. Unless you have a legal warrant for her arrest, which I know you do not because I checked with the territorial court this morning, then you have no claim on her." Hammond's hand rested on his gun. "Now, I suggest you and your men turn around and head back to your ranch before I arrest the lot of you for attempted kidnapping." "This is not over, Turner," Webb snarled. "I will have what is mine one way or another." "It is over," Owen said. "Olivia is under my protection now, and I have witnesses to your threats. You come near her again, and I will make sure every judge and lawman in the territory knows exactly what kind of man you are." Webb looked like he wanted to argue, but Hammond's presence clearly made him think twice. With a final glare at Owen, he wheeled his horse around and rode off, his men following. The tension drained from Owen's shoulders so fast he nearly staggered. Olivia was beside him in an instant, her arm around his waist, holding him steady. "Thank you, John," Owen said to the sheriff. "How did you know to come?" "Beth rode into town this morning and told me everything, said you might need some backup." Hammond tipped his hat to Olivia. "Miss Frost, I apologize for what you have been through. Webb had no right to treat you that way." "Thank you, Sheriff. I appreciate your help." Hammond shifted in his saddle, looking uncomfortable. "There is still the matter of the bail money Webb paid. Technically, that is still an outstanding debt." Owen's heart sank. "How much?" $200. Plus transport costs, call it another $50. That was nearly everything Owen had saved over the past year, but he did not hesitate. "I will pay it." "Owen, no," Olivia protested. "That is too much. I cannot let you. You are not letting me do anything. I am choosing to do this." He turned to Hammond. "Can you draw up the papers transferring the debt to me? I will bring the money to town tomorrow." "I can do that. But Owen, you need to understand what you are agreeing to here. If Miss Frost cannot pay you back, you are out a significant sum of money." Owen looked at Olivia, saw the protest in her eyes, the guilt. He reached out and took her hand. "Then we will figure out a way for her to work it off. I can always use help around the ranch." "Or," Olivia said slowly, "there is another option." Everyone looked at her. "What if we got married?" "For real, I mean. Not as payment for a debt, but because we want to." She turned to Owen, her eyes searching his face. "You said you are falling in love with me. Well, I am falling in love with you too. I know it is fast, maybe too fast, but this is the West. People do not have the luxury of long courtships out here. They meet, they decide, they commit." Owen's heart was pounding so hard he could barely hear over the roar of blood in his ears. "Olivia, you do not have to do this. I am not asking you to marry me to pay off a debt. I know you are not. That is why I am asking you." She squeezed his hand. "Owen Turner, I have spent my whole life afraid. Afraid of being alone, afraid of being hurt, afraid of trusting anyone. But you make me want to be brave. You make me want to take a chance on something good, even if it scares me. So I am asking you, right here in front of witnesses, will you marry me?" Owen felt like the ground had dropped out from under him. This woman, this incredible, brave, beautiful woman, was asking him to marry her. Not because she owed him, not out of obligation, but because she wanted to. "Yes," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "Yes, Olivia Frost, I will marry you. Today, tomorrow, whenever you want. I will marry you and spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret taking this chance on us." She threw her arms around his neck, and Owen lifted her off her feet, spinning her around while Marcus whooped, and Sheriff Hammond tried to hide a smile. "Well then," Hammond said when Owen finally set Olivia down, "I suppose we need to make this official. I can marry you right now if you want. I am authorized to perform weddings in the territory." Owen looked at Olivia. "What do you say? Want to get married on my front porch with Marcus and the sheriff as witnesses? I cannot think of anything more perfect." So that was exactly what they did. Sheriff Hammond performed a simple ceremony right there in the dusty yard, with the mountains as their backdrop and the late morning sun warming their faces. Owen did not have a ring to give Olivia, but Marcus disappeared into the barn and returned with a thin gold band that had belonged to his late wife. "She would have wanted you to have it," Marcus said gruffly, pressing it into Owen's hand. "It is not fancy, but it is real." When Owen slipped the ring onto Olivia's finger, his hands shook slightly. This was real. This was happening. In the space of 3 days, his entire life had changed, and he could not imagine it any other way. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," Hammond said with a grin. "Owen, you may kiss your bride." Owen cupped Olivia's face in his hands and kissed her gently, reverently, pouring everything he felt into that single moment. When they pulled apart, she was smiling through tears, and Owen felt like his heart might burst. "Congratulations, Mrs. Turner," he whispered. "That sounds wonderful," she whispered back. Sheriff Hammond stayed long enough to complete the marriage certificate and have everyone sign it, then took his leave with a promise to make sure Webb stayed away from the ranch. Marcus headed back to his work in the barn, giving the newlyweds some privacy. Owen and Olivia stood on the porch, hands clasped, watching the sheriff ride away. "What happens now?" Olivia asked softly. "Now we build a life together. We work the ranch, we make this place a home, and we figure out what being married means one day at a time." Owen pulled her close, resting his chin on top of her head. "I will not lie and say it will be easy. Ranch life is hard, and we are still learning each other. But I promise you, Olivia, I will spend every day trying to be worthy of the gift you gave me when you agreed to be my wife. You already are worthy. You freed me from those chains, Owen. Not just the physical ones, but the ones around my heart that kept me from believing I deserved something good." She turned in his arms to face him. "I love you. I know I should probably wait to say it, make you earn it or something, but I cannot hold it in. I love you, Owen Turner, and I am so grateful that I got on that wagon that brought me to you. I love you too." Owen kissed her again, deeper this time, tasting the salt of her tears mixed with the sweetness of her smile. "Come on, Mrs. Turner. We have a ranch to run and a marriage to start. I suggest we get to it." They spent the rest of the day working side by side. Olivia insisted on helping with the chores, and Owen found himself enjoying the simple pleasure of showing her around the property, teaching her the rhythms of ranch life. She was a quick learner. unafraid of hard work, and by evening they were both pleasantly exhausted. Beth returned the next day with a basket of food and congratulations on their marriage. She fussed over Olivia like a mother hen, making sure she understood how to cook the foods Owen liked and how to manage the household while Owen was out working the land. The days turned into weeks and weeks into months. True to his word, Owen brought the money to town to settle Olivia's debt to Webb, though the man refused to see him. It did not matter. The debt was paid, recorded officially, and Olivia was free of any legal obligation. Their marriage grew stronger with each passing day. Owen learned the small things that made Olivia happy: wildflowers picked on his way back from the pasture, an extra hour of sleep on Sunday mornings, the sound of his voice reading aloud to her in the evenings. Olivia learned Owen's moods, could tell when he needed space to work through a problem, and when he needed her quiet presence beside him. They had their disagreements, of course. Olivia had a stubborn streak a mile wide, and Owen could be infuriatingly set in his ways. But they learned to talk through their differences, to listen to each other, to compromise. The first time they made love, a month after their hasty wedding, it was tender and sweet and slightly awkward. But they laughed together at their nervousness, and the second time was better, and the third time better still, until they found their rhythm together in that as in everything else. Winter came early that year, blanketing the ranch in heavy snow. Owen taught Olivia how to ice fish in the frozen creek, and how to track rabbits through the snow. They spent long evenings by the fire, Olivia teaching Owen the finer points of reading that his mother had started but never finished, and Owen teaching Olivia to play the harmonica his father had left him. By spring, Olivia was expecting their first child. Owen had never seen anything more beautiful than his wife with her hand resting on her growing belly, a soft smile on her face as she felt the baby move. "What should we name him?" Olivia asked one evening as they sat on the porch watching the sunset. "How do you know it is a boy?" "I just do." She took his hand and placed it on her belly. "Feel that? Those strong kicks? That is definitely a son." Owen felt the flutter of movement under his palm and was struck with awe. This was his child, his and Olivia's, a new life they had created together out of love. "We should name him after your father," Olivia suggested. "What was his name, James? But I was thinking we could name him after yours instead." "What was your father's name?" "Henry." Olivia smiled. "Henry Turner, I like it." But when the baby arrived on a warm June morning, it was not a son but a daughter with Owen's gray eyes and Olivia's auburn hair. They named her Rose, after Owen's mother, and Owen fell instantly, completely in love with his tiny daughter. "I was wrong," Olivia said, cradling Rose in her arms while Owen sat beside her on the bed, "but I am not disappointed. She is perfect." Owen traced a finger down Rose's soft cheek. "You are both perfect." Life settled into a new rhythm with Rose in the house. Owen had never known he could function on so little sleep, but somehow he managed. He would wake in the night to find Olivia nursing their daughter by lamplight, humming soft lullabies, and his heart would swell with so much love he thought it might crack. Marcus doted on Rose shamelessly, carving her toys and telling her stories about the old days when he and Owen's father had first come to Colorado. Beth taught Olivia all her tricks for soothing a fussy baby and brought over her daughter's old baby clothes for Rose to wear. On their first wedding anniversary, Owen took Olivia on a picnic to the clearing where they had stopped on their first journey to the ranch together. Rose slept in a basket while they spread out a blanket and shared the meal Beth had packed for them. "It has been quite a year," Olivia said, leaning against Owen's shoulder, "the best year of my life." Owen wrapped his arm around her. You know, when I saw you step off that wagon in chains, I never imagined this. I just knew I had to help you. And I never imagined that the cowboy who freed me would become my husband, the father of my child, the love of my life." Olivia turned to look at him. "Do you ever regret it, taking such a big risk on a stranger, not for a single second?" "You are the best thing that ever happened to me, Olivia Turner. You and Rose both." He kissed her temple. "I would do it all again in a heartbeat. The confrontation with Webb, the debt, everything. It was all worth it to have you in my life. I love you so much. I love you too. More than I ever thought it was possible to love someone." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching clouds drift across the blue Colorado sky. Rose woke and fussed, and Olivia fed her while Owen packed up their picnic. "I want more," Olivia said suddenly. Owen looked up. "More what?" "More of this. More children, more years, more life with you." She smiled down at Rose. "I want our children to grow up knowing they are loved, that they have parents who chose each other and built something beautiful together. I want them to know that even though their mother came here in chains, she found freedom in their father's love." Owen crossed to her and knelt in the grass, taking her hand in his. "Then that is what we will build. A family, a legacy, a life worth living. Together." 2 years later, they welcomed their second child, a son they named Henry after all. He had Olivia's green eyes and a temperament as fierce and stubborn as his mother's. Rose adored her baby brother, following Owen around as he carried Henry in a sling, chattering about all the things she would teach him when he got bigger. The ranch prospered under Owen's careful management. He hired 2 more hands to help Marcus as the older man's arthritis got worse, and he expanded the herd until they were one of the more successful cattle operations in the area. Olivia started a small garden that grew into a large one, selling her excess vegetables and preserves in town. She became known for her healing skills, learning from an old Ute woman who lived in the mountains how to make medicines from herbs and plants. People came from miles around for her remedies, and she never turned anyone away, even those who could not pay. Webb never bothered them again. He lost his ranch 2 years after Owen and Olivia's wedding, gambling debts and poor management finally catching up with him. The last Owen heard, he had left Colorado entirely, heading to California to try his luck in the gold fields. On their 5th wedding anniversary, Owen surprised Olivia with a new dress he had ordered from a catalog. It was the most beautiful thing she had ever owned, made of soft green fabric that matched her eyes, with delicate lace at the collar and cuffs. "When would I ever wear something this fine?" She protested, but her eyes shone as she ran her fingers over the fabric. "Wear it for me tonight. We will have a proper anniversary dinner, just the 2 of us. Beth is taking the children for the evening." So they dressed up in their finest and ate a meal Olivia had spent all day preparing. They drank wine that Owen had been saving for a special occasion and danced in the main room to music only they could hear. "You ever think about that day?" Olivia asked as Owen spun her around. "The day you saw me in chains?" "Sometimes. Usually when I am counting my blessings." "What would you have done if I had said no when you proposed? If I had wanted to leave?" Owen pulled her closer. "I would have let you go, given you money to start over somewhere safe, and I would have spent the rest of my life wondering what might have been." He looked down at her, his heart full. "But you did not say no. You said yes, and you made me the happiest man alive." "I said yes because I was already falling in love with you. I just did not know it yet." Olivia rested her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "Owen Turner, you are the best thing that ever happened to me. You saved my life in every way a person can be saved. You saved mine too. Before you, I was just going through the motions. Working the ranch, surviving, but not really living. You taught me what it means to truly live, to love, to build something that matters." They swayed together in the lamplight, two people who had found each other against all odds and built a life more beautiful than either of them could have imagined. 3 more children followed in the years after that, another daughter named Grace, and twin boys, Matthew and Michael. The house that had once seemed too big for just Owen now overflowed with noise and laughter and love. Marcus passed away peacefully in his sleep when Rose was 10, and Owen wept for the man who had been like a father to him. They buried him on a hill overlooking the ranch, with a simple wooden cross that Owen carved himself. Rose left wildflowers on his grave every week without fail. Beth lived to see all of Owen and Olivia's children grown, delighting in being a grandmother figure to them all. When she died at the age of 73, the entire town of Auray turned out for her funeral, testament to the lives she had touched. Owen and Olivia grew older together, their hair turning gray, their faces weathering like the mountains around them. But their love never dimmed. If anything, it grew stronger, deeper, more comfortable with each passing year. On their 25th wedding anniversary, their children threw them a party at the ranch. All 5 children had gathered, some with spouses and children of their own now. Rose had married a lawyer from Denver and had 3 children. Henry ran a successful horse ranch in Wyoming with his wife. Grace taught school in Auray. And the twins, inseparable as always, worked the ranch alongside their father. Owen looked around at his family, at the legacy he and Olivia had built, and felt overwhelming gratitude. A quarter-century ago, he had been a lonely rancher watching a woman in chains roll into town. Now he was surrounded by children and grandchildren, by love and laughter and life. Olivia found him on the porch after the party, watching the sun set over the mountains as he had done countless times before. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, sliding her hand into his. "I am thinking about chains," Owen said. "The ones you arrived in and the ones you freed me from." "You freed me from my chains, Owen, not the other way around. We freed each other." He pulled her close, breathing in the familiar scent of her hair. "I was bound by loneliness, by routine, by the fear of letting anyone get too close. You broke those chains just as surely as I broke the ones on your wrists." Olivia leaned into him. "Look at what we built, all of this from a single act of courage on your part, our part. You were brave too, choosing to trust me, choosing to take a chance on love when you had every reason not to." They stood together as the sky turned from gold to pink to purple, 2 people who had started as strangers and become everything to each other. "Do you remember what you said that first day?" Olivia asked. "After you took off the chains." "I said a lot of things that day." "You said I was yours to protect, and you kept that promise, Owen. Every single day for 25 years you have protected me, loved me, stood by me. You made me feel safe when I had never felt safe before." Owen turned to face her, cupping her face in his weathered hands the same way he had that first day. "And you gave me purpose, Olivia. You gave me a reason to be better, to do better, to build something that would last. You gave me a family and a life worth living." "I love you," she said, the words as powerful now as they had been the first time she had spoken them. "I love you too. Today, tomorrow, always." They kissed as the last light faded from the sky, 2 hearts beating as one, 2 souls intertwined by fate and choice and love. Inside the house, their children were laughing, their grandchildren playing, the next generation of Turners already writing their own stories. But out here on the porch, it was just Owen and Olivia, the cowboy and the mail-order bride who had arrived in chains. He had broken those chains and said she was his to protect. And in protecting her, in loving her, in building a life with her, Owen had found his own freedom. They had saved each other. these two unlikely souls and created something beautiful from the ashes of what could have been tragedy. As stars began to appear overhead, Owen and Olivia went inside together, hand in hand, ready for whatever the future held. Because no matter what came, they would face it the same way they had faced everything for the past 25 years, together.